is doing okay. So I wanted to use this time just to talk about some of the video game series that's had a somewhat big impact on my life. And I've mentioned a lot of this information kind of throughout my various videos. So it's kind of all scattered all over the place. But I've never really dedicated one video of me just talking about some of those really special moments or very special series, video game series to me anyway, so I thought I would just use this time to talk about that. 3 series in particular have had the most impact on me, that being Zelda, Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. So I guess I'll start with Dragon Quest, since that is the most recent video game series that's kind of gotten very close to me. So I guess it all started in the end of 2019, where I saw a trailer for Dragon Quest XI for the Switch. So this was the S version, and when I saw that trailer, I knew I wanted to play the game. And I've never played a mainline Dragon Quest game prior to seeing this trailer, so I saw that and I just knew that I wanted to play it. Now, 10 years ago, or 10 years from that moment, I did play Dragon Quest Monster Joker, which is a spin-off game kind of like Pokemon, but I don't really count that just because it's not a mainline. It's quite different from the main series, but I did enjoy that spin-off. But other than that, I didn't really experience Dragon Quest pretty much in any way. So I saw Dragon Quest XI S, and I bought the game on the Switch. So this is end of 2019. So the game was already released prior to that on 3DS, and I think PlayStation and Xbox. But this was the original version, not the S version. But then very soon after, I realised that Dragon Quest 1, 2 and 3 were re-released on the Switch also. The remastered versions from mobile. So I decided to get those as well. And I actually played those 3 games first before I played 11. And Dragon Quest 1, I think that was even before Final Fantasy was released, so it was very primitive. First time experimenting with RPG and role-playing elements in video games, I guess. So I kind of just took it for what it was. I didn't judge it, comparing it to today's standard of games, of course. I took it for what it was. I got through the first Dragon Quest game. Took about 10 hours, I think, to beat that game. And Dragon Lord was the final boss. So yeah, it was just the one character, very basic, but I enjoyed it. So straight away I went to Dragon Quest 2, where you have 3 characters now, which are basically the descendants of the character from the first game. And I played through that and I enjoyed it even more than the first one. There is a dungeon in number 2, which is considered to be one of the most annoying dungeons in Dragon Quest. And I can see why, but I didn't have too much trouble with it actually, because I was just lucky in that sense. But I really enjoyed Dragon Quest 2. And then Dragon Quest 3, Seeds of Salvation, which is basically a prequel to the first game. And it's kind of like it reminds me a lot of Final Fantasy 3 and Final Fantasy 11, just because of how they do some of the elements like the class system, and there's a lot of customization involved in Dragon Quest 3. But I enjoyed it even more than even the second one, so I would say it even holds up somewhat to today's standards. So yeah, I really enjoyed those 3 games. And then after that I went straight to Dragon Quest XI. And the first thing I noticed about this game is that it reminded me a lot of One Piece. In terms of the atmosphere, in terms of the characters, in terms of the progression of the story and how the characters kind of evolve and interact with each other, it reminded me a lot of One Piece. And in many ways, well, I would even go as far as to say that Dragon Quest is the One Piece of video games. Did I say that correctly? Dragon Quest is the One Piece of video games. I would go as far as to say that. That's how much Dragon Quest XI reminded me of that manga series. And I'm a huge fan of One Piece, so I guess maybe there was already a sort of a sense of there was a familiarity there already, so that's why I guess I automatically liked the game. And as I got further in the game, that familiarity became more prevalent. And I've always wanted a One Piece RPG game, but usually with sort of anime manga games, they don't really go all out in terms of development and budget to make it the best experience. It's always, most of the time anyway, it's usually this half-assed game that's put together just to make quick money. But if One Piece was a video game made properly with a good budget and good developers, then I would say Dragon Quest XI, or even Dragon Quest as a whole, would be that game, One Piece. But yeah, Dragon Quest XI, I regard it as pretty much my favourite single-player game ever, which is that's quite something for me to say, because there aren't many games that I come across that I would consider, high level, especially as I got older as well, because Ocarina of Time held that spot for such a long time. I didn't think anything would take it over, but to my surprise, I'm pleasantly surprised that Dragon Quest XI took that spot. So yeah, and what I really enjoy about Dragon Quest as well is that as you're going through the game, you notice that they take a lot of inspiration from the real world. So for example, I'm currently playing through Dragon Quest IV. I just started it a few days ago, and I'm on chapter 2, so I'm still quite early on, but chapter 1, you start off with the character called, I hope I get this correct, Ragnar McRyan, okay? And the way the characters speak at that portion of the story, you can see that they've taken inspiration from Scottish, or the Scottish way of speaking, the accent, because of the way they write the text is very, I guess, stylized in the way Scottish accents are. So it would be like, oh, we laddie, or something like that. I'm not gonna bother trying to do the accents, but I really like that. And as you get further in the game, more of that sort of cultural references you notice it more. So in chapter 2, which is where I'm on in the game, they take a lot of inspiration from Russia. So you're like a princess of the Tsar, which is emperor. So you're Tsavrena Lena, or Lena. So that's the character in chapter 2. And as you're talking to NPCs and stuff, you can tell that the text is written in that sort of Russian accent, but like in English. So it would be like, oh, there is monster in village. We must defeat the monster to save Anastasia. And when I'm reading the text, I think of the text being spoken in that accent. So I guess that kind of adds a bit of realism to the game for me. Like, I believe the game. So that's really something quite special that I don't really see too often in other video games, especially to the degree that Dragon Quest does it. And it's I guess it's kind of started in maybe Dragon Quest 3. I didn't really notice it too much in the first 2 games, but definitely Dragon Quest 3 and Dragon Quest 11. And I haven't played the rest yet, but eventually I'll get to all of them. But yeah, that's the one thing I find really, really nice about the game. And also, I really enjoy the characters too. And again, they're quite similar to One Piece characters. I feel like, in terms of the personalities, in terms of how they interact, and how the characters interact with the world around them. So, you know, that adds even more believability to me when I play the game. So I guess, yeah, I'm playing through number 4 right now, Chapters of the Chosen, and already I'm 5 hours in. I'm really enjoying the game, so I'm very excited to play the rest of them. I actually recently bought Dragon Quest 6. What is it called? Some Revelation or Reverie. Oh, Realms of Reverie, which is the European title, Realms of Revelation. That's other regions. But yeah, I managed to get a good offer on that game, £45, which is about, I think it's like $30 or $35, something like that. But yeah, I'm glad I managed to get that for such a good price, because those games, Dragon Quest 4, 5 and 6 on DS, are extremely expensive. So I'm sure there's more I can say about Dragon Quest, but I'm just going to move on to the next series now, which is The Legend of Zelda. Now, if you've seen some of my videos, I'm sure you've heard me talk about Zelda and how much of an impact it's had on me. And you know, being a child on Nintendo 64 playing Ocarina of Time, I think I was about maybe 4 or 5 when that game came out, and yeah, it just instantly took effect, I guess, from the music to, you know, this concept of being a hero and time travel. And I would say time travel is one of my favourite narrative elements in fiction. Time travel, this concept of going forward or backwards in time and affecting things and moving through time is just a very interesting concept to me. So when it's mixed in with this whole concept of being a hero, and you know, you've grown up, you have a sword and a shield, it just appealed to me a lot in many different ways, especially in the packaging of Ocarina of Time. It just had a big impact on me, and in particular, you know, at that age of 4 or 5, the image of adult Link with a shield and sword on his back and running across Hyrule Field. The shape of Link just seemed very appealing to me, attractive to me, and I guess maybe that's why I've been drawn to that character for such a long time. And yeah, it's pretty much always stayed with me, you know, up until my adult life. And but Ocarina of Time wasn't the first Zelda game I finished. It was actually Wind Waker on GameCube, and then I beat Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on GameCube because they re-released the game with Master Quest and like some various different collections, so which I've shown on some other video before. So, but yeah, I beat Wind Waker. I think that was the first one I finished, and then I finished pretty much every other Zelda game that's come out since, and every single one, for the most part, has impressed me. There's very few Zelda games that have kind of disappointed me in any sort of way really. There may be a few things here and there that maybe, you know, I'm not a fan of, but there's nothing terribly sort of you know, ruins the game in any way. So for example, in Wind Waker, one of the complaints about the game was the sailing, because it does take quite long to go from island to island, especially on the GameCube. Although I guess, you know, being a child, at that age, it just didn't really bother me. I enjoyed the wait from island to island, even though there wasn't really too much going on. And there was a ton of sailing as well. I mean, I'm sure if you've played Wind Waker, you're aware of that. But I really enjoyed the art style too, which was another complaint. I'm not really the kind of person that refuses to play something or watch something because maybe the art style didn't appeal to me. It's just not it's not really an important thing to me. So I enjoyed the game for what it was. I enjoyed the dungeons, the music, the story, everything pretty much. And then Twilight Princess, the same thing. Although maybe they could have took more use of some of the weapons and tools that you were given. And Skyward Sword, I enjoyed also, but a lot of people complained about the motion controls. But I really enjoyed playing the game. I think it has one of the best Zelda stories also, so that one I think was also really good. And then Breath of the Wild, which I completed 100%. Yeah, the series just never fails to impress me, especially when it comes to the dungeons and puzzle solving and music. You know, I always feel, I just feel like it just feels right. And yeah, just the concept of sword and shield, running around, slashing monsters with the music. I can't go wrong with that experience. And I think music is a huge thing for me too. I think if a game has really, really amazing music, that's, maybe it's not half of the game. I think probably that's a bit too much, but I'd say it's a good chunk of the game for me. If you've got the good gameplay with a good story and good music, it kind of just comes full circle. The music really kind of gets you motivated to play the game. It puts you in the mood of the setting, and it becomes even more believable. In kind of the same way Dragon Quest does and Final Fantasy does as well. Although I'd probably say, actually no, I can't really decide who does that the least. I mean, all three series have really good music. So yeah, music is very important to me in a video game. So the last one is Final Fantasy, which I've mentioned again in the past that I became a fan quite late, and not even through sort of the classic method of becoming a fan, because I played Final Fantasy 11, and that's the one I consider my favourite, and that's an MMO. I don't think I really need to say too much about that, because I think I've said enough about it. But from that, eventually I started to play the other games, 3, 4, which I've never beaten 3 and 4 yet, and then 7, 8, 9 I've beaten, 10 I still haven't beaten yet, 12, 13 I've never played, 14 I've never played, and 15 I've beaten, yes. So it was really through Final Fantasy 11 that I became a Final Fantasy fan, and if it wasn't for that game, I don't know if I would be into the series as much, just because that game had such a big effect on me as a child and through my teen years. That is, yeah, I've kind of just been encompassed by the whole series at this point. But I'll definitely say it's the least out of the three that I consider my favourite as a whole, that is. Definitely Zelda first. Dragon Quest is a close second, which is saying something considering I only experienced that series mainline like 2 years ago. And then Final Fantasy. So that's kind of how I would rank them. And you know, in terms of Final Fantasy, I would say there's a lot of things about that series and the games that has disappointed me far more than the other two series. For example, I was never a big fan of Final Fantasy 8. I didn't like the battle system. I know a lot of people do. I was just never a big fan of it. I'm not really a big fan of this whole pushing Final Fantasy VII Remake. I mean, I want the game, but I think they're kind of taking it a bit too far. Just stretching it a bit too much. All I wanted was just one simple remake, the full game, and not this dragging out. But you know, it's a business, right? So, and they know that Square Enix knows that they're gonna buy it up. So okay, fair enough. But I'm just not really a big fan of that. But you know, they do have some really good games like Final Fantasy 9. I really enjoyed. 7 I really enjoyed. 12 I also really enjoyed, and 15 I really enjoyed. And of course 11. And also incredible music across the board, from pretty much from the first game all the way up to the latest one. Yeah, I mean, it's just a really large range of music that's really good, pretty much across all three. Although I think Dragon Quest has the least, I think, just because Dragon Quest does repeat a lot of the same tracks across, you know, the games. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. I think I've said enough. Let me see here. Okay, so yeah, I think I've spoken enough, to be honest. I think maybe I spoke a bit too fast, but maybe you can let me know. But I said pretty much what I wanted to say. Yeah, let me know, you know, what video game series has had a big impact on you, and tell me why. But yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that. So I'll see you in the next ASMR video. Please take care of yourself.